The 76-year-old man sat at the same corner table every morning, but no one knew what hell he had endured in Vietnam. Until the old photograph slipped from his trembling hands while drinking coffee, revealing a 50-year-old secret. Bill Thompson had owned the corner table at Mabel's Diner for exactly 15 years. He came every morning at 7 and left at 8:30. His routine never changed. Black coffee, buttered toast, quietly reading his newspaper. The waitresses called him Mr. Thompson. Customers barely noticed him. Old, pale, with slightly trembling hands. Just someone who was simply there. But there was a reason he chose the same corner every morning. From there, he could see both the front door and the back exit. Old habits died hard. 50 years had passed since Vietnam, but Bill still checked exit routes. He always carried an old photograph in his bag. 5 young soldiers, dirty uniforms, tired smiles on their faces. Summer 1968, Ia Drang Valley. Of those 5 men in the photograph, only he remained. The others had stayed in Vietnam's soil. No one knew his hands trembled because of Agent Orange. No one asked that he couldn't sleep at night, that he still heard helicopter sounds in his dreams. Mabel's Diner wasn't just a restaurant for him. It was a safe place, where no one would ask him questions about Vietnam, where no one would see him as a hero. Just Bill Thompson, retired, quiet, living a daily routine. Until that Tuesday morning. That morning, everything had started normally. Bill had come at 7 as usual, sat at the same corner table. Waitress Jenny approached him with a smile. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. The usual?" Bill nodded. Words weren't necessary. The 15-year routine spoke for itself. When his coffee came, Jenny noticed his hands trembling. "Are you okay?" she asked with concern. "I'm fine," Bill said. But he wasn't. He hadn't slept again that night. In his dreams were his friends from Charlie Company. Always the same dream. Helicopters, jungle, screams, and the faces of those 5 friends. While drinking his coffee, he tried to take the newspaper from his bag, but his trembling hands knocked over the bag. Contents spilled onto the floor. Wallet, keys, medications, and that old photograph. Yellowed, edges worn, dated 1968. The photograph fell to the floor. Jenny bent down and picked it up. When she saw the photograph, she stopped. 5 young soldiers, Vietnam uniforms, helicopter behind them. "Is this you?" Jenny asked, examining the photograph carefully. Bill nodded, averting his eyes. "You look so young here. How old were you?" 19, Bill said quietly. "We were all 19. Jenny looked at the other men in the photograph. "Where are your friends now?" That question broke something inside Bill. The truth he had never told anyone in 50 years hung on his lips. His voice broke. "They didn't come back." Jenny examined the photograph in her hand again. She saw the pain in Bill's eyes. This wasn't just an old photograph. This was a story of loss. "What do you mean they didn't come back?" Jenny asked in a soft voice. Bill remained silent for a long time. He looked at his coffee, placed his trembling hands on the table. It was time to tell the story he had never told anyone in 50 years. "Ia Drang Valley, summer 1968, he said slowly. "Our helicopter went down. There were 5 of us. I was the only survivor." Jenny held her breath. While other customers ate their breakfast, Bill Thompson was breaking his 50-year silence. Tommy was only 18 years old. He was from Detroit. He wrote to his mother every week. His voice trembled. Mike was from California. He was going to get married when he returned. He always carried his fiancée's photo with him. David and Carlos. They were both good friends. They had grown up together, went to the army together. Bill stopped, wiped his eyes. "I couldn't save them." "Were you wounded?" "I was shot in the leg." "But they were much worse off." Jenny handed the photograph back to Bill. "You're a hero too." "No," Bill said harshly. "Heroes save their friends. I just survived by chance." At that moment, customers at other tables had also turned their attention to Bill. Old Farmer Joe, young Mother Sarah, a group of workers. They were all listening quietly. Bill had never talked this much here. No one knew he was a Vietnam veteran. "My hands shake because of Agent Orange," Bill said. "Doctors say it's normal, but I know the real reason. Guilt. The guilt I've carried for 50 years. Jenny sat down next to him. "Mr. Thompson, you don't need to feel guilty for surviving." Weeks passed, and Bill's life began to change. Now when he came to Mabel's diner, people treated him differently, with respect, with understanding. He shared Korea stories with Joe. When Sarah brought her child, Bill told him stories about his grandfather. Mark sometimes stopped by after work, just to chat, but the biggest change was in Bill himself. For the first time in 50 years, he could talk about his friends. Jenny asked him, "Why did you tell it now? Why after 50 years?" Bill put the photograph on the table. "Because I can't let them be forgotten." Tommy's laugh, the sparkle in Mike's eyes when he talked about his fiancée. The loyalty David and Carlos had for each other. "They live in my memories, and if I don't share them, they'll truly die." That evening, as Bill walked home, for the first time in 50 years he felt at peace. The guilt was still there. It always would be. But now he wasn't carrying it alone. The people at Mabel's diner understood him, and maybe that was enough. The next morning Bill came at 7 again, but this time he didn't keep the photograph hidden in his bag. He put it on his table, where everyone could see it. "Good morning, Tommy, Mike, David, Carlos," he said quietly. "Today we're starting another new day together." When Jenny brought his coffee, she noticed Bill was no longer living just for himself. He was also living for the memory of 5 friends, and this made him stronger. Sometimes the greatest heroism is waking up every morning and continuing to live. Bill Thompson had been doing this for 50 years, and now everyone knew its value. The corner table at Mabel's diner was no longer just Bill's place. It was a memorial table for 5 Vietnam veterans, and every morning, memories were kept alive at that table.